And that's the best thing I saw today. The question of this Wednesday as it related to the NBA Finals was really simple. Klay Thompson, who hurt that hamstring, was he going to give it a go? Leading up to this day, he had alluded to the fact yesterday that he didn't think it was something that would keep him out, but you started to hear rumblings. Doris Burke put it well, and we just talked about it a moment ago. Sometimes you have to protect the player from himself, because if he could check himself in, he would have. His head coach, Steve Kerr, wouldn't let him. He talked about why he wouldn't after the loss.
Well, the whole point was to not risk a bigger injury that would keep him out of the rest of the series. So that was the decision we made, and I feel very comfortable with it. Never would have forgiven myself if I played him tonight and he had gotten hurt. So you live with the decision. You make a wise decision, the wisest one you can, then you live with it and you move forward. So the good thing is Klay has done well the last 2 days. Now he's got another couple of days to heal. Hopefully he'll be out there Friday.
Tim, over here.
Tim Calcom, The Athletic. The decision on Klay, did it really come down to the last minute, or had it basically been made maybe even an hour or so, or maybe even earlier, not to play him?
That's, internal business. So.
Well, the internal business is right now they're saying, we got a bomb squad, but a lot of them are missing in action just because they're not able to be in action. Half the Warriors' big four out for Game 3, and it showed. As we've seen throughout the postseason, Golden State's been just fine without Kevin Durant and beyond fine with all four. But as you would clearly surmise, if you lose players that are this good, you're not as good. Stunning. Tim Legler alongside. And before we get to this, just a real quick thought about just how his absence on the defensive end helped allow Toronto get whatever it wanted, because it seemed easy. I know they made big shots, but it seemed like they got into a flow, didn't they?
Yeah, lacking Klay defensively. He got Kawhi 25 possessions in the last game, one-on-one. He's got length, reach. He pursues. He takes away a lot of penetration because he continues to track you from behind. Tonight, you saw just a complete breakdown defensively all over the place. And I'm going to focus on a guy tonight that played like an all-star. And in this situation, I thought Kawhi had to be the best player on the floor by far. It turns out he didn't have to be because he got this much help. You want to know how well Toronto shot the ball from the three-point line tonight? Well, take a look at this defense right here. You got a guy down on the baseline that's probing, and you got four defenders lifted above the foul line because of the way Toronto shot the ball. But look how patient Toronto is. And the reason I chose this possession is this seemed like a microcosm of the night for Golden State. Every time they got it to about 7, something like this would happen. And it was simple ball screen action, and they were out of sync all night defensively. And this is what you're going to do if you're Van Vliet. Draw 2. You're going to get this slip to the middle. And this puts Sean Livingston in a tough spot because right now he's on the weak side. But when Gasol gets this, he becomes a strong side corner guy, and you can't leave the shooter. But he's confused because of how easy this looks. It's soft. So now Livingston says, well, here comes Gasol. If I don't get there, he's going to be basically at the rim. And the problem is now you're leaving a guy that had a lot of confidence tonight in Kyle Lowry. And like I said, Scott, this seemed like the entire second half. Make a mini run, cut it to 7, get it back up to 12 in a hurry. Another example of just really porous defense tonight. Attack at the wrong angle. Siakam's going to come here into the lane. And look, when you're going to draw this many dudes, you're going to get something good on the perimeter. And again, the patience. So take a look at Kyle Lowry on the catch. He's feeling so good. He eyes this thing up from 27. Take a look at Draymond, where he's going to fly by. Now, a lot of guys would step in and take this 15-footer. He's feeling so good, he decides to go ahead and step back, bypass the 18-footer. Let me take another contested 3 because of the way he was feeling tonight. 11 threes between Lowry and Danny Green. To me, the difference. Golden State's defense we could talk about. But when you're putting the ball in the basket, your defense is a lot better. So Golden State couldn't do that tonight. Toronto had better opportunities, but the bottom line is those two guys made shots. And if they're going to shoot the ball like that, we're talking about a really long competitive series that Toronto could potentially win if they continue to shoot the ball like that.
Folks that watched SportsCenter last night, you saw Tim Bontemps with the Raptors, and he had spoken to Lowry, and Lowry, who only had 20 points in the first 2 games, said the mindset was to be more aggressive, hunt his shots. He did, and for whatever reason, he's better on the road. Danny Green, hunt your shots, shooters shoot, and he does what you'd expect him to do, 6 of 10 from 3. He was a key contributor in this one as well because Van Vliet buries threes, Lowry buries threes, but Green had to see the ball going at some point, didn't he?
Yeah, early too. And look, I just know this as a shooter. Anytime you go through some sort of a slump where you're not yourself, if you get a couple of looks early, and he had 3 clean threes in the first quarter of this game, And it's a different night for you as a shooter when you knock down a couple early in the game.
He said it. Just see it go through the basket.
Completely. And you could tell then the rest of the game, he shot it. Like I saw him earlier in the playoffs, shoot and chase, shoot and wish. He shoot and hope.
He wasn't posing tonight.
Correct. Tonight, you could just tell he went up, down the same place. The follow-through was there, and he was already jogging back as that thing was about 75% of the way to the rim. So, again, look, it's created by getting into a rhythm early. Golden State's defense really contributed to that. But give Green and Lowry big-time credit. This was a game, flat out, there's no way they could lose if they expect to have a chance to win this series. Not tonight. Not against this Warriors team. Right. And Kyle Lowry and Danny Green had a lot to say in that.
Yeah, and Kawhi had 30 because that's what superstar players do. They leave their imprint on the game, and Kawhi certainly did. Afterwards, Tim, thank you. He was with Ramona Shelburne.
You and Danny are the ones who have been here in an NBA Finals in this spot. What do you tell your teammates now with a 2-1 lead?
The same thing, one game at a time, get ready for game 4, and that's it. Just come out, let's play hard, limit our turnovers, and just come in game 4 ready to play.
Every one of these games is critical. And I keep saying we've had a lot of this throughout the playoffs with other teams, guys out. We've had some guys out, et cetera. And 5 guys are going to be out there, right? And you can't really worry about that. Each game's critical, and the next one will be as critical as tonight's was, So it's been like that all through the playoffs. And, we just got to guard and play who's out there. And that's all we can do.
If he plays, we'll get ready for him. But I think we said it yesterday. We'll be ready. Be ready for whoever plays. And if it's Kevin, if it's Clay, if it's whoever it is, we're gonna have a game plan for them, and we're gonna try to execute it for 48 minutes.
We welcome in Stephen A. Smith. First Takes had live studio audiences, and they've been very enthusiastic, but maybe a little bit of nervousness in the air as they're now down 2-1, and we wait to see who will be available for them Game 4. But Stephen A., this Toronto team, they're led by Kawhi. We know this, but how significant do you feel like the contributions were beyond their stars 30?
Well, it was everything. I mean, when you look at Serge Ibaka, comes off the bench, gives you 21 minutes. He has 6 block shots. You look at Marc Gasol, he dropped 17 on like 6-for-11 shooting. You look at Kyle Lowry, 23 points, hitting 5 threes along the way. You look at Danny Green, a virtual no-show offensively since the Eastern Conference Finals, scores all 18 of his points on 6 threes, and you saw all 5 starters shoot double-digit shot attempts. And so when you look at that, you see the distribution, you see the sharing of the basketball, you see the level of patience that obviously you're going to witness when Kawhi Leonard has the ball in his hands, particularly in ISO installations. I think, ISO situations. I think, like what did Tim Lakeland say? About 25 times.
Yep.
And so when you look at it from that perspective, and then you sit there and compare that to the 47-point explosion from a Steph Curry, but how no one else was really able to step up, really making a difference. And then DeMarcus Cousins, we raved about him in Game 3. Huge disappointment. I'm sorry, he raved about him in Game 2.
Right.
Huge disappointment in Game 3. Virtual no-show. 1 of 7 shooting. 1 field goal on the entire night. Thoroughly and completely outplayed by Serge Ibaka, by Marc Gasol, even by Pascal Siakam. He did absolutely nothing tonight when you needed him most. The combination of all of those things are why the Golden State Warriors are down 2-1 in this series, because when you don't have KD and you don't have Klay Thompson, you need somebody to step up, particularly when they're supposed to have an advantage. That was supposed to be DeMarcus Cousins tonight. It didn't happen.
No, he couldn't finish at the rim either. Just had no lift and no energy. And it was interesting, Stephen A., when he joined me after that game the other night, I said we're never supposed to ask the how do you feel question, but I asked him how did he physically feel. He said he felt fine then, but he didn't know how he'd be an hour later. And obviously he didn't have anything, and Steph gave them all he could. 47 out of Steph. I kept thinking if they could bury that one shot to get over the hump from, say, 7-4, but the Raptors would never let that happen. That impressed me, their ability to make the shot to stem the tide.
Here's the reality of the situation. You got to give Steph credit where credit is due, because he did all he could. You know they were going to key on him, and he was still absolutely sensational with 17 in the first, 25 in the first half. But if you're DeMarcus Cousins, I got news for you, SVP. He never had any lift to begin with when he was healthy.
Right.
That's not his game. His game is shooting perimeter shots or taking that big backside of his, drop stepping in the post and making you feel his girth and his mass. So it don't matter how high you can jump. You still going to end up flat on your back going up against him. He didn't do that tonight. He actually tried to look pretty doing layups, and it didn't work. And then you look at the Toronto Raptors, they were throwing bodies at him. They were dictating pace. They were making shots. They shot 52% from the field. They shot nearly 45% from threes. You saw what they were doing. And add Serge Ibaka's 6 blocks to that. I can't emphasize enough how important that was because he completely wiped away anything in the interior, simply relegating them to a perimeter shooting team, and that wasn't going to be enough.
I understand what Steve Kerr is saying. You don't want to risk losing Klay for the entirety of this series. But now, I mean, you got to win quicker. It's not going to go long anyway. Golden State's saying if we get KD and Klay back, we can win 3 out of 4. Do you think they can?
Yes.
Do you think they will?
Yes, they can. Yes, they can. Absolutely. If they get Klay and KD, oh, please don't worry. Don't even worry about it. Don't even worry about it. Now, if they don't have them, that's an entirely different ball game altogether. But if they have both KD and Klay back, with Iguodala playing and Draymond and Steph healthy to play, don't even worry about it. Mere bag of shells. Not to sit there and quote the honeymooners, Ralph Cramden, but mere bag of shells. Ain't nothing to worry about.
I'm not worried about a thing. I'm just curious what you thought. Stephen A., I'll be curious to see how the crowd reacts tomorrow morning. I'm sure they'll bring their energy, and their home team could use it. We'll check you out for First Take tomorrow, Stephen A. Thank you.
I kind of need their energy, too. We'll see what happens.
I'll get you some of those Swedish fish. Get the Swedish fish stat. My man needs some Swedish fish.
I'm working on it.
SportsCenter on the road is presented by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans.